Hey everybody, I am here with Tim Miller of the Bulwark. We're here today to talk about what happens when a bunch of conspiracy theories making all kinds of claims about the secret history of the deep state inside our federal government takes the reins of that federal government, having made all kinds of promises about the revelations, about the epiphanies about to come before us. Just to give you an example of where we're at, this is the question that Caroline Leavitt, no relation, got today in the briefing room from a guy named Liam Cosgrove from an outlet called Zero Hedge. Let's take a look.
And my only other question for you is, so over the weekend, President Trump posted Truth Social a video highlighting what most people call the Clinton body count, which is the strange number of suicides that seem to happen in Clinton circles. I have a headline here from the Washington Post that said, Trump peddles false conspiracy theories tying the Clintons to several deaths. So I just wanted to highlight real quick, this wasn't in Trump's video, but this is from the Arkansas Times, and it's the death of Mark Middleton, who was a former Clinton White House aide, who was found dead on a Clinton Foundation property. And I'll just quote from the Arkansas Times. Middleton apparently shot himself in the chest with a shotgun and also hung himself from a tree with an extension cord. So I have no idea how somebody commits suicide that way, but if the Washington Post is here, maybe you can enlighten us as to how that was actually a suicide. So anyways, that's just a lead into my question about the most famous Clinton-related suicide, which is that of Jeffrey Epstein. There's still a lot of questions around that case. You've released phase 1 of the Epstein files. What was missing from that is any connection to his ties to intelligence agencies, and that's really the whole story, that not just trafficking young girls, but doing it on behalf of intelligence agencies, and even potentially as part of a blackmail ring with potential ties to the Israeli government. So for phase 2, when can we expect it? Will it have information pertaining to those aspects of the Epstein case?
I know the Attorney General has committed to releasing those files. I would defer you to the Department of Justice on her timeline, but when she has made a promise in the past, she has kept it, and I'm certain that she will in this case as well.
More of a comment than a question there.
Yeah, you get a lot of comments, not questions, from that new media seat.
Yeah.
So that is the kind of expectation that has been set for the Trump administration by itself, right? This is what they have created a kind of fervor around. Trump has spread a lot of conspiracy theories. A couple weeks ago, Pam Bondi released what was supposed to be phase 1 of the Epstein files, but so far it's been pretty disappointing, hasn't it, Tim?
It's been quite disappointing to the people, to the MAGA hordes, if you will. An amusing aside. Can I do one amusing aside?
Please.
For people? Zero Hedge is somebody I've followed for a long time because I like to monitor what's happening in the fever swamps. And so I've been intrigued by Zero Hedge for quite a while, many years now. And his avatar on his social media is a shirtless picture of a muscled man with some blood down his chest, and I guess maybe from Fight Club.
It is.
You've seen
it's
it
Tyler
as well.
Durden. I know
It's
the
Tyler
image you're
Durden.
speaking of.
And so when I saw him for the first time in the flesh today, I was like, that doesn't seem like a fella that's been in a Flight Club to me. I don't know. He had a little. I'm not sure. I think I'd probably have my money on Lovett if you guys were to go head to head.
Wow. I've been putting creatine in my smoothies, so I don't. I'm going up in the ranks.
So I guess false advertising is all I'm saying on both his physique as well as on the subject matter at hand of the Clinton body count. These guys, when you get into the FBI and you get into the DOJ, there is this hope built up over many years that the evil that you said that you are fighting, that there will be some comeuppance, right? Like for a lot of the Trump fans, the comeuppance was just the fact that Trump won. Trump won, Jon Lovett cried, he gets to be in the White House, right? Like that's it. That's enough for some people. But there are other fans that took this all seriously, right? Like the types of people that stormed the Capitol, types of people that really did think that Hillary Clinton was frazzle dripping. And there's an expectation now from them that Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino will go and punish their foes, just like the January 6ers were punished, right? Like, why has there not been indictments yet about any of the Clintons or the Biden crime family? Why haven't we, gotten to the bottom of who Jeffrey Epstein was protecting and who killed him, right? And so, like, these questions now, they have to do this dance, right? Like the Trump White House is like, well, you might want to ask Pam about that. Then Pam's like, here's some binders I'm going to give to some of you that has information that anyone that read the Miami Herald already would have known about Jeffrey Epstein. Because there's nothing, they can't do what they had promised, right? And so they're left kind of having to play this, game of, what is it? The Monty?
Three-card Monty? You're talking about three-card Monty?
No, it's not Monty. What's the game with the balls and the cups? It's a different
What
game.
is the game with the balls and the cups called?
They got to do the balls and the cups.
I mean, honestly, you could have gone with three-card Monty. It's the same
idea.
Idea. What's interesting about the Epstein of it all is Donald Trump was president when Jeffrey Epstein died.
Is that right?
Yes. He killed himself in 2019. You're another person who's had their mind fucking wiped by Donald Trump.
I'm joking, Lovett. I'm joking. I do know that. Bill Barr was the Attorney General. Alex Acosta was in the Trump cabinet, who was involved in the initial Epstein legal team.
Well,
right?
yes.
I go very deep on this. I'm quite aware. If anybody killed Epstein, it was somebody in the Trump orbit.
Right. Well, the other piece of this, which has obviously been outrageous, is Acosta was somebody people pointed to as one of the reasons Epstein was treated so leniently in Florida. Donald Trump obviously knew Epstein, and then we went through this whole cycle where all these conspiracy theorists are interviewing Donald Trump. They never even fucking asked him about it.
Well, no, because it has to affirm their like the ante here, like the pre-existing truth, so to speak, that must be confirmed by the conspiracy theorists is that there is a web of deep state Jews and gays and others, that are responsible for all of this, right? And they are liberals, and they are all protecting the Clintons, and they are all powerful in Hollywood and finance, and these people need to be exposed. And so if you're kind of working backwards from that base fact, you don't let like inconvenient alternate facts get involved, get in the way of your investigation. And that's what is happening here.
Yeah, and so Donald Trump, I think, is clearly aware that basically he's spent years with with his whole MAGA kind of media apparatus, getting a bunch of right-wingers rock fucking hard, and then he's just going to leave. And so he put this video out. He reshared it over the weekend. Let's take a look at just the kind of unhinged content that Donald Trump has been sharing. This is from 2016. Let's see it.
In 2015, Walter Scheib, a White House chef hired under Bill Clinton, joined the list. His body was found at the bottom of a river, nearly 2 miles from the base of the trail he was reportedly hiking. An autopsy determined that Scheib's death was accidental drowning, but he might have known too much. 27-year-old Democratic National Committee staffer Seth Rich was shot and killed in D.C. this year. There is speculation that he was the source of the controversial leaked emails allegedly sent by DNC staffers.
This is all obviously conspiratorial nonsense, but I forget the details of just how many people Bill and Hillary Clinton are meant to have murdered, and how inured we are to the fact that the current president of the United States is sharing this kind of crap.
I want to shout out people that actually care about the Seth Rich case. There's a great book of Death on W Street. The Seth Rich thing makes me so sad, and I'm sure it would make me upset if I knew the people involved in the 1990s nonsense. Like, this is just as a generational gap. But since we lived through the Seth Rich thing, that story is so tragic, and it's like everything they say about it is wrong. And it is like we are near like the idea that Trump, like the president, can go out and just pop off on this thing and be like, my political rivals killed this random 27-year-old, and I've told my DOJ that they should look into all of this, right? Like that is not anything that is even within precedent. Like there's nothing to compare it to. There's no real comp in our lives. I guess you go back to Nixon. There may be some comps, but in the post-Nixon, there are like really no comps to what he's been doing. And like and I'm sure we're gonna get into the Kash and Bongino of this, but like the problem is that like you would think now by this time it's his 5th year in the White House that there would be some follow through on any of this. But I think the unfortunate kind of reality of like dealing with the conspiratorial mind is I don't know if there has to be, actually. I think, can he just keep them riled up over and over again on different things? Or eventually does the bill come due on this sort of thing?
It's a little bit like they're all following a cult leader who has told them when the world is going to end.
Yeah.
But then the world keeps not ending, and so he goes back into his yurt and like does the calculations and comes back out and says, I have a new revelation. The end of the universe will be 6 months from now. Yeah. But I do think this is coming to a head because for whatever reason, the kind of MAGA conspiratorial online freaks, they can forgive the first 4 years because they believe he had not yet been able to grab the reins of the deep state. But I don't know how they get past this. We have FBI Director Kash Patel, Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino.
Say that again.
Deputy Director Dan Bongino. Is it
Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino? I just like to sit with it every now.
No, I know you did. I know. Yeah. I understood that we just needed to let's just make space for that.
I didn't.
That's our defying gravity. We're holding space for Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino. Let's hold space for that. And but they were sitting side by side being interviewed. First of all, a great duo. I don't know who the straight man is, but seeing them side by side, it's gold. It's
the
gold.
Eyes.
It's
what is happening on both of their eyes?
It's
a beady off.
It's well, I would not. Yeah, they Dan Bongino's eyes are beady. Kash Patel's eyes are open. His eyes are fucking open. He is seeing it all. Yeah. He has such a naturally comedic resting face. It is. Honestly, you can't teach it. You can't train it. It's a gift. Let's roll the clip.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
The lady doth protest too much. I mean, it was a little. Dan was really laying it on thick there. I don't buy it, I guess, is what I'm saying. I don't buy it.
Me neither. I'm with you.
You know, I mean, if he was coming in and you're like, hey, like we're taping a new season of NCIS. We're trying to find a new deputy FBI director to convincingly tell people that somebody who was murdered killed himself, and Dan Bongino gives that performance. We're gonna move on to the next, the next person in line.
Well, he does a little bit more. There's more to that clip. It's a longer clip, and he does a lot of kind of perseverating, because clearly he knows that there are people that aren't going to believe him, and he knows he's part of this big kind of deep state MAGA. The it's easier being a podcaster.
Seriously,
it's just much easier being a podcaster. But the reaction to this. Just going to read you a couple. I have reviewed the case. Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. There's no evidence in the case file indicating otherwise. This statement by itself is enough reason for me to never believe another word that Dan Bongino says, deep state traitor.
Love that.
This is extremely insulting to the intelligence of the people who pay your salary. Your department promoted a key figure in the persecution of the J6ers. You've done nothing to expose Ray Epps and the other feds in the false flag operation. James Comey's 8647 post wasn't a coincidence. It was a calculated signal from a corrupt insider. A former FBI director doesn't get to play dumb about death threat slang while his agency claims to prioritize community safety. Epstein case closed with a wink. Accountability, the same bureau that spied on Trump now wants trust after years of targeting conservatives.
There are a few funny things about this that I think it's worth appreciating. On the one hand, if Kamala Harris was the president, I guess this is kind of sad and funny.
Yeah.
Dan Bongino and Kash, like their material would be indistinguishable from what you were just reading. Right. You know what I mean? Like that was the type of stuff they were promoting. That is the type of stuff that got them, their Trump bucks and their, in Dan Bongino's case, status on the podcast charts right below Pod Save America. And that's how they did it. Like with all that material right there, Ray Epps, these guys were pushing all that stuff. It was the Fedsurrection, all of that. And so now they're in these shoes where they have to kind of try to backfill, some reality and spoon feed it to these people very softly and nicely, give them a little bit of ice cream with the bad news, something to make it go down a little easier. So that part is funny. And then the other part is I guess, can I say something nice about Kash? Is that allowed on this channel?
It's interesting because I think our minds are going to a similar place. I want to hear what you have to say.
It could be. It could be way worse than this, right? They could be doing the thing where they're trying to. Honestly, I'm just going to be fully honest. When Trump nominated all of the cabinet people, and Kash isn't technically in the cabinet, but the Kash is the person I was the most worried about because the FBI can do a lot of shit before they indict people. The FBI, Kash could just be out there doing, and maybe this will come at some point. But doing investigations into people over nothing, doing these propped up investigations, hassling people, harassing people, tapping their phones. FBI has a lot of leeway before you get to a grand jury. And the fact that they're not doing that and that they're doing these humiliating interviews with Maria Bartiromo is I guess good.
It's so funny. I was thinking something similar, which is really more to ask the question, why? Right? There is a big space between issuing subpoenas for Hillary Clinton's Whitehaven house to look for bones, right, and doing an interview where you basically just come clean and say, we checked it out, he fucking offed himself. They could have done more. They could have sort of fanned the flames. They could have claimed that we'll never get to the bottom of it. I hate to say it because who knows what we have coming. But it's as if they're acting with a little bit of seriousness. There's some element that there's some reason in which they don't want to. Maybe it's because they have to lead these organizations and they have to actually work with people day to day. Yeah. Maybe there's a human element to it. I can't explain it.
My theory of the case is, and maybe there's something else happening. I don't know. But my theory of the case is the FBI is a little bit different than, some of these other agencies, not to impugn the great and good workers at some of these other government agencies. But I do feel like you can kind of plop in at HHS and start firing off crazy thoughts. And nothing's really coming to the desk of the HHS secretary that's urgent, where it's really important that you deal with the mid-level policy staffer who's the expert on cancer research, right? All of that stuff is long lead. It takes time. As FBI director and deputy director, you've got all these agents that you basically accused of being in on it, right? They were very skeptical of you to start, a lot of these FBI agents. They were accused of being part of the Fedsurrection by their new boss, right? And you get in there, and they're serious, and they're coming to you with actual life and death cases, and maybe reality's is this too much to hope for? Am I spinning too optimistic of a thing where reality's intervened a little bit and they're just trying to calm the sharks while they deal with the actual life of being at the bureau? Is that naive?
I don't know. It's naive unless it's true. It's naive unless it's true. There is a human element that I do think is part of this, which is whatever their expectations of what they'd find, suddenly the people they're working with are real people, and they're tough. They're serious people. They are FBI agents, leaders that are not going to be pushed around, and kind of can smell weakness too. You know, they're and not going to put up with fools. And I do think there's a human element of just they got to interact with these guys every day, and it's a little bit. It must be intimidating.
It must be intimidating. Maybe also like they think their fans are going to go along with it. I don't know. Like if you're Dan Bongino, you've created an adoring fan base of morons, right, who believed your every word. And so now you like went and got to watch the Epstein tapes. Like it's insane this position you're in. And like you got to watch it yourself and look at it and watch the man die. And you're like, okay, now I'm going to be able to go back out to the people and be like, I watched the tapes. You trust me. I'm Dan Bongino. I'm the one that, told you down was up.
It's funny though. They haven't been able to deliver on any of it, right? Like we're not getting any fucking aliens. We're not getting any more of interest on JFK or RFK. They've not delivered anything revelatory on any of the, conspiratorial stories around whether it's MLK or the people Hillary Clinton was meant to have murdered. Like there's just they're not giving on anything. They're just batting it all down.
That's enough to make you think they've been compromised. If they gave you one thing, maybe, but come on. None of it's true. The aliens, the second shooter, the Epstein murder, you got nothing, Whitewater.
I mean, look, you just hate to think that somebody like Dan Bongino, who is a former Secret Service officer, or someone like Kash Patel, who was a part of the U.S. Attorney's Office, that these two people might very well have been plans from the deep state all along. These are two people that were there from the very beginning to build trust among the patriots in this country. And it is sad to see that the hope in Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, that these hopes were misplaced because these were unreliable narrators from the beginning. Because who better to help protect the deep state's prerogative than two outsiders who the MAGA base thought they could trust? Who better to allow the deep state's murderous rampage led by a cabal of wealthy international Jews to continue than two outsiders who claim they were there to stop it? It's sad to see.
We should have seen it coming, actually. When Kash Patel, we learned that Kash Patel was living with a rich man in Las Vegas for some reason. That doesn't seem like kind of an independent-minded outsider. That seems like a man that might be compromised.
Sometimes you can't see the strings, and those are the strings that are most dangerous to be pulled.
Disappointing. Really is disappointing.
But I'll tell you something, Tim. Here's one conspiracy theory you can take to the bank. The Bulwark and Crooked Media have been secretly working together on a plot. We are going to be doing a big gay live show and fundraiser during World Pride in D.C. At the Lincoln Theater on June 6th, Friday night. It is called Free Andre, a fundraiser at World Pride. We're donating the proceeds to the Immigrant Defenders Law Center, which represents Andre Hernandez Romero and others being held in El Salvador illegally, unconstitutionally. You can get tickets at crooked.com/events. They're going pretty fast. It's a serious cause, but it's going to be a really fun show. Tim, me, Sarah Longwell. See if she can get a word in edgewise.
Doubt it.
You drink every time a lesbian utters a word during the show. How many words can a lesbian get in edgewise? That's what this show will be a test of.
I think that you could get, lightly tipsy by the end of the show, at the end of that game. And it's going to be great. We're going to touch all of everybody's, emotional pleasure centers. We're going to have I'm going to have rage. There might be a little bit of rage and anger and passion and a little sadness, but then laughter, joy,
silliness.
Glitter, silliness. We're going to manage to do them all. We're going to touch them all in 90 minutes or so.
Coming out with us June 6th, Friday night. Get the tickets at crooked.com/events. And also do us a favor, subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to the Pod Save America feed on YouTube. It helps us grow this channel. Oh my, look at that.
I have a plaque and he doesn't. I have a plaque and Lovett doesn't.
It makes me fucking insane. It makes me insane.
So help Lovett get a plaque.
I want a plaque.